State of Andhra Pradesh versus Rayavarapu Punnayya. A detailed case analysis. Importance of the case. This ruling reinforces the criteria for distinguishing between murder and culpable homicide. It provides guidance on how severe injuries and intent are evaluated in criminal cases. The case highlights the role of medical and witness evidence in legal outcomes. It guides us in understanding the nuances between different categories of criminal offense. The case provides an insight into how courts weigh evidence and intent. This case has influenced how future cases are to be prosecuted. Background of the case. In Rampicheria village, tensions existed between three main factions. The Reddys, led by Chopparpu Subbareddy. They supported the Congress. The Kammas, led by Rayavarapu. They supported the Swatantra Party. And the Bhattarajus, who were led by Sarikonda Kothamraju. Clashes between the Reddys and Kammas led to violent incidents, including a murder in 1954. A police force was stationed in the village from March 1966 to September 1967 to maintain order. On 22 July 1968, the sub-inspector of police visited the village to mediate a dispute and instructed both parties to meet the next day. On 23 July 1968, Sarikonda Kothamraju and his companions boarded a bus to a police station, where they were followed by 5 accused. When the bus stopped, accused 1 and accused 2 attacked Kothamraju and severely injured him, leading to his hospitalization and eventual death from his injuries. 2 witnesses were present during the attack and later testified. The post-mortem report reported 19 injuries, out of which 9 were classified as grievous. The cause of death was shock and hemorrhage from multiple injuries. Injuries were on non-vital parts, but collectively led to death. The trial court found both the accused A1 and A2 guilty of murder under Section 302 of the Indian Penal Code. Both the accused were awarded life imprisonment. The High Court reduced the charge of murder to that of culpable homicide not amounting to murder under Section 304 Part 2 of the Indian Penal Code. 5 years rigorous imprisonment was imposed on both the accused. The state appealed against the decision of the High Court. Rayavarapu Punnayya, the first accused, died during the pendency of this appeal.
Section 299 of the Indian Penal Code defines culpable homicide as whoever causes death by doing an act with the intention of causing death, or with the intention of causing such bodily injury as is likely to cause death, or with the knowledge that he is likely by such act to cause death, commits the offence of culpable homicide. Under Section 300 of the Indian Penal Code, culpable homicide is murder if the act by which the death is caused is done with the intention of causing death, or if it is done with the intention of causing such bodily injury as the offender knows to be likely to cause the death of the person to whom the harm is caused, or if it is done with the intention of causing bodily injury to any person and the bodily injury intended to be inflicted is sufficient in the ordinary course of nature to cause death, or if the person committing the act knows that it is so imminently dangerous that it must, in all probability, cause death or such bodily injury as is likely to cause death, and commits such act without any excuse for incurring the risk of causing death or such injury as aforesaid.
The Supreme Court held that when determining whether an offence is murder or culpable homicide not amounting to murder, a court should follow these 3 stages. First, establish whether the accused's act directly caused the death of another person. If causation is established, determine if the act qualifies as culpable homicide under Section 299 of the Indian Penal Code. If it is culpable homicide, then assess if the facts meet any of the criteria for murder as defined in Section 300 of the Indian Penal Code. If the facts fit one of the criteria, it is considered murder, otherwise, it is culpable homicide not amounting to murder. If the case fits the criteria for murder but falls under any exceptions listed in Section 300, it will still be classified as culpable homicide not amounting to murder and punishable under Section 304 of the Indian Penal Code.
The defense claimed that firstly there was no premeditation and the attack was impulsive, lacking premeditation. Secondly, the 21 injuries were on arms and legs, not on vital parts like the head. Thirdly, there was no severe bleeding or compound fractures and death occurred 21 hours later due to shock, not hemorrhage. Fourthly, despite the severe injuries, the accused likely did not intend to cause death. The defense claimed that the act constitutes culpable homicide under Section 299 of the Indian Penal Code, punishable under Section 304 Part 2 of the Indian Penal Code rather than murder.
The Supreme Court held that the claim that the attack was not premeditated is incorrect and contradicts the High Court's finding that the injuries were inflicted in line with the common intention of accused 1 and accused 2, thus Section 34 of the Indian Penal Code applied. The assertion that the cause of death was merely shock, without compound fractures or significant hemorrhage, does not match the evidence. Dr. P.S. Sarojini, who conducted the autopsy, testified that the death resulted from shock and hemorrhage due to multiple injuries, including compound fractures with substantial hemorrhage, which are typically dangerous. The Supreme Court held that there was long-standing hostility between the accused and the deceased, with ongoing criminal litigation. The attack was premeditated, planned shortly before execution, and the accused had a motive. The accused used heavy sticks to beat the deceased brutally, resulting in 19 to 20 injuries, including fractures and dislocations. Despite the victim's pleas, the assault continued until he became unconscious. The deceased's injuries, primarily to the limbs, were sufficient to cause death due to shock and hemorrhage. Dr. Sarojini's expert testimony confirmed that these injuries were cumulatively lethal. The intensity and brutality of the attack, combined with premeditation and the significant injuries inflicted, indicated an intention to cause death. Although the intention to cause death was not explicitly proven, the severity of the injuries and the assault's premeditated nature qualified the act as murder under Section 300 of the Indian Penal Code. The case parallels Andhra versus State of Rajasthan, where extensive injuries were caused by an assault, even if not individually fatal, were deemed sufficient to constitute murder under Section 300 of the Indian Penal Code. The High Court's reduction of the charge to culpable homicide not amounting to murder was deemed incorrect. The original conviction of murder under Section 302 of the Indian Penal Code was restored, and the accused was sentenced to life imprisonment.
Thanks for watching.